welcome to what I'm temporarily calling Sunday Spontaneity, because that's what this is. I wasn't sure if I'd do a stream today after I streamed earlier with Monkey, and I didn't want to step on any toes, and I thought to myself, well, it's still Sunday. I got nothing else to do. So let's pick J-Random Video out of my collection of J-Random videos and see what's going on. And what is today's J-Random video? Well, it is building diversity and inclusion into dating. I have no idea. You know, you're attracted to who you're attracted to. And either you can score a date with them or you can't. And I don't think anybody should be blamed for being attracted to whomever or however they are. Like, whatever, you know, within the bounds of the law, obviously, and informed consent. I need to make that clear, but so I thought, what the heck? Let's find out what it means to try to introduce diversity and inclusion into your dating. I mean, I assume this means that you have to take whatever you currently believe or feel is your type and say, oh no, that's too limiting. I need to consciously force myself to date people I might not otherwise be attracted to or something. I have no idea. I guess we'll find out from our purported expert. Now, this is one of the talks at Google. Google has its own series that are effectively TED-like talks that I've done several videos on in the past. And this is one of them. It's a conversation between two people over Zoom or whatever Google uses, probably Hangouts, I suppose. Audio's not bad, as far as I can tell. You'll have to tell me. And I guess we'll find out what it means to try to broaden your horizons in dating. Tall person, thank you so much. Happy National Pepperoni Pizza Day, everybody. I had a pepperoni pizza a couple of days ago. No, it was pepperoni and Italian sausage and cheddar cheese, and it was yummy. Totally terrible for me, health-wise, but it was yummy. Well, before I get into it, I will say a few hellos to those of you who have decided to join me on this sudden ambush stream on a Sunday. Quinn the Cultist, Jaeger Pony, Chaos X, BG, Chris Pierce. Let's see, who else is here? Zalbla, Marcus Gallagher, Raziel, Twisted Skipster, Tall Person, of course, Mike R, Duck Dog, Lancelot 652, Pink Hollow, the Driving Ape Man, Jake Tungseth. All right, a Scribelight podcast to help me through my flooring project. Well, I'm with you, Jake, in your flooring. I hope it goes well. I hope I can entertain or something in the next few minutes. Johnny Stoffel, Asshat, TC, Advocatus Diaboli, Jeanette E. Hellis, and Atheist Icon, hello. All right, guys, so as usual, I will start off with a couple of seconds for sound. I think it has a little intro piece of music. I hope it doesn't get me in trouble. And actually, you know what? Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to skip over that. Okay. Let's try to get... Okay. Just to make sure. All right, let me know if you can hear this, and then we'll proceed.
Hello, and welcome to another Talks at Google.
Hello, and welcome to another Talks at Google. All right. Talks at Google. Yeah. Talks at Google is sort of the brand X of TED Talks. A lot of the Google stuff is talking to authors and like lecturers and scientists and things. I mean, a lot of them are not that bad, really. They're on varying topics and things, but occasionally you get somebody at a Talks at Google who's, you know, telling us why Dr. Seuss is racist and that kind of thing. I did that one a couple of years ago. That was something else. But anyway, let's see. Sounds good. Sounds good. Hello, douchebag. Okay. Well, I don't know. The guy could be nice. I just met him. I don't even know who he is. Let's find out.
I'm here today with Dawoon Kang, the co-founder and co-CEO of Coffee Meets Bagel. Hi, Dawoon.
Hi.
The CEO of Coffee Meets Bagel. Sure. Why not?
Hey, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining today to share your story. My name is Juno, as you know. I have the honor of hosting you on behalf of my team at Google, the Online Partnerships Group.
The Online Partnerships Group sounds classically ambiguous.
And it's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council.
Oh, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. Oh, they have a council? Ooh, that sounds so sci-fi dystopian. Ooh.
And I also have the honor to represent the Asian Google Network, which is hosting this talk as well in celebration of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
The Asian Google Network. Is that the equivalent of a Google employee resource group? Wunderbar.
This year's theme is breaking through together. And I'm excited that we have you, who has personally broken through so many barriers yourself and can genuinely speak to that experience. So, to kick things off, would you mind giving a brief introduction of yourself and Coffee Meets Bagel to the people in the audience who may not be aware? And that'll be like your history, co-founders, notable network TV appearances, and overall claim otherwise.
Wow, that's going to be quite a resume. Oh yeah. So what is Coffee Meets Bagel? Let's see. Is it a breakfast app? Is it a social network of I don't know, coffee bagel enthusiasts?
Great. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm so glad that you invited me to share my point of view and my experience, and really hope that it's going to be helpful and thought-provoking to everyone who's joining.
I hope so too. I could use a little thought-provocation. A little thought-provoking on a Sunday when obviously my brain is still waking up, even though I've been up for a couple hours now. I slept in. I don't usually sleep in. Maybe that's thrown me off a bit.
The Asian community, of course, women in tech, but everyone else as well. Okay, so a little background about myself. I'm originally from Korea. I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 13. Yeah, Korea.
Yeah, Korea. I'm an American now.
With my two sisters. Yeah, really just went to high school and college here. And, my parents, like, I come from an entrepreneurial background, family background. So
you come from a family background, except for all those, like, I suppose, orphan children. A lot of people don't come from a family background. Yeah, that's true.
My mom was an entrepreneur, and my dad particularly actually started his business right out of college with his own brother, and which kind of gave the three of us the inspiration to do the same. And so this is something that we actually talked about for, almost since we were little.
So you've been growing up under an entrepreneurial spirit since you were little. Now you work for Google. Boy, I don't know. How many barriers did you have to break in the process of all of this good fortune and success?
But of course, being a good Asian, child that children we worked hard, was like really eager to get into really good college.
Are you feeding into stereotypes right there a little bit?
Collect different degrees out there and, work for Fortune 500 companies. So
this rattling this, just doing this in Fortune 500 companies and like, oh, well, I mean, I presume you worked very hard. It wasn't just sort of like given to you or handed to you in some fashion.
Did that for many, many years. And then about 8 years ago is when we decided, hey, you know what? Like, we always talked about just starting a company together. If we, it feels like if we don't do it now, maybe it's now or never. So, and among the three of us, we have like 10 plus years of work experience, and we really feel confident that there's something that we can create that can leave a really meaningful legacy to the world. And that was
a meaningful legacy to the world is Bagel Meets Coffee.
When we decided to start Coffee Meets Bagel. So I started that company with my two sisters. We were in New York at the time, and then kind of moved out to San Francisco.
Yeah, Scanner Daphne says 10 years of experience between them. So between three siblings, 8 years ago, you had 10 years experience together. I never really understand what that's supposed to mean, We have a combined 10 years of experience. Like, yeah, but you're both individuals or something. You know, it doesn't really. Or you have, as my dad always said, like somebody comes to me, like when he was hiring people at the business he worked for, someone would come in and say, I have 8 years experience in contract processing. And he'd say, well, you probably have, 1 year's experience times 8, right? Because you're doing the same thing all the time. Like, oh, I guess that's true, right? Because it's like, but who knows what they're talking about?
Because it's Islamic of tech. So I'll just pause here for a moment.
Yeah, that's great. Can you give us more background about like how Coffee Meets Bagel is different from other dating apps?
It's a dating app. Oh, Coffee Meets Bagel, dating app, dating diversity. Oh, the image of coffee and I don't know. There might be some Freudian symbolism there somewhere.
And sort of the rise up. I know you had I think most people would be aware that you guys were on Shark Tank, and that's sort of Coffee Meets Bagel's biggest lighthouse moment.
Oh, I don't watch Shark Tank, so I have no idea what they're talking about. But I don't know. Assume away, I suppose.
It was. So quick background on Coffee Meets Bagel, and how we landed on dating. So we decided that we were going to start something first, and we didn't really actually have a eureka idea that we wanted to work on. So we started spending time just observing what would be a problem that would be really exciting and interesting for us to solve.
A problem to solve. Okay, so your dating app solves a problem. I assume aside from just, singleness or loneliness or something. So what is the problem, I wonder?
As well as a big market and big opportunity. And the dating just kept coming up, and I think because the age that we were at, we were in our late 20s, and of course all of our friends and family, including ourselves, were dating. And when we looked at the dating industry and the existing kind of players out there, what we realized is that is this interesting insight of how the gender ratio of the dating app participants, it's very lopsided in the heterosexual community. So
it's very lopsided in the heterosexual community. And you're talking about markets again? I mean, that's because heterosexuals are in the statistical majority. That's not a value judgment on anybody. That's just math. So if you're talking about markets and market share, there's a wider audience for heterosexual dating than there is for other kinds of dating. A lot of dating apps now just try to be all things to all people and set all the preferences so you can essentially select the kind of people you're looking for. Like the first one that comes up to mind is OkCupid. They've gone completely into 17,000 different genders territory kind of stuff. But yeah, but you have specialized dating like Christian dating or Jewish dating, or you have sites that are exclusively for, gay dating or lesbian dating or whatever. So, and that they've been around for quite a while. I know you're just getting into this market, but there's been dating apps and dating sites for niche interests for a long time. But okay, you had this great insight into, yeah. Thank you, Johnny Stoffel, hotdogmeetsbuns.com. Yeah. All right. So you had this great insight that there are people out there other than heterosexuals who date. All right.
Like 70% guys, 65% guys, and 35% women. And when you actually consider the activity level of men and women, men are actually twice as much as more active on dating apps. And so that kind of phenomenon made things even more lopsided.
Now, why are men more active on dating sites? I wonder if it's because, there's a lot of guys who aren't quite sure how to approach women, especially these days when approaching a woman in the wrong fashion, and the wrong fashion being whatever someone might decide is the wrong fashion at the moment, could get you into some serious trouble or accusations elsewise. Or even if that's not an actual danger in reality, it is a danger that's been put into the minds of many men over the last 3 or 4 years because of Me Too and so many other things. So fear might supersede reality, but it's still having an effect. Thank you, Mikhail, the Driving Ape Man. Article I covered said prefs on apps is racist. Yeah, if you filter whoever might end up in your suggestions thing somehow, then you're being discriminatory in a racist / ideologically racist way, rather than just having sort of like, I have a preference of what type of person I'm attracted to. Is that inherently racist? Is it valuing somebody on the basis of that? Well, in the sense of attractiveness, perhaps so. Is there some line there where it's like, well, if you only like Asian women, then you're racist against white women? That's the logic, right? I suppose.
And of course, that has consequences to the experience of all the participants. Guys are often frustrated because they don't hear back, and women are also overwhelmed. And so we said, hey, I think there's an opportunity for us to be able to create quality and safe dating app that really speaks to women, so that we can actually provide the best experience for both men and women.
Okay. I'd be interested to hear how your business model works in that regard, because computer dating, online dating has been around for many, 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 many years. And there's been many, 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 many iterations and attempts at this. So what is unique about Coffee Meets Bagel that somehow solves these problems that no other site has ever attempted to solve before? Which I know is nonsense. But anyway, thank you, Mikhail, the Driving Ape Man. Again, funnier part, the article targeted Grindr. Oh, yes. Racism in the... Yeah. I mean, everywhere you look, you can point to racism and come up with racism as something to complain about. God of the gaps theory of complaints and statistical analysis and such. Okay, anyway, so she's and her sisters have had this amazing insight into the dating app industry that no one had ever had before. And your solutions were?
Now, that was 8 years ago. That's kind of how we started in the beginning. Our vision really has evolved as, I personally grew and my team also grew. And now, rather than focusing on like woman per se, our vision is much more inclusive.
Much more inclusive. So women and men? Wow, that's such a leap into the dating industry.
It is, we're here, like the world that we want to create is a world where everyone has access to love.
I want to create a world where everyone has access to love. Well, that sounds very utopian, very ideal. Sounds a bit hippie, summer of love, free love, that kind of stuff. I mean, I suppose it's a nice notion. How is Coffee Meets Bagel going to do that now? I'm still waiting for the grand magical mechanism of her app versus all others.
I think it's love is something that everyone wants, but and some of us are lucky enough to be able to stumble upon it. We don't make any effort, and we just find it. But most of us, it just doesn't happen for us, like kind of in a fairy tale Hollywood movie.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Love in a fairy tale Hollywood movie sense is very rare, if it happens at all. And I've heard stories, but yeah, okay. But again, all right. So you stated the problem. The problem is not everybody has love. And you think everyone should have access to love, as if love were a commodity. And I suppose in the dating industry, technically love is a commodity, kind of, at least attraction or hooking up. Okay, but again, you stated your problem. How does your app, beyond all others, help to solve this problem?
It's something that we actually have to actively cultivate and go after.
Yes. Relationships and love and connection. Yes, you actually have to put some effort into it somehow, some way. Very few people stumble into love or accidentally bump into someone on the street and then have a fairy tale romance. It's true. It's true. Are dating apps really work, though? I guess it depends on how you leverage them.
And we, Coffee Meets Bagel wants to be the partner in your dating journey, as far as helping you find relevant people, as well as helping you cultivate a good dating practice that'll actually get you to be able to create healthy dating, healthy relationship. And so, Shark Tank was one of our biggest breakthrough moments. Because of our focus on long-term relationship, we've been voted many times as, best dating app for women, best dating app for people looking for long-term relationship.
I mean, how does this not eventually dissolve down to the individual? How does a dating app create long-term relationships? I mean, a dating app might get you the contact. It might help you to network, might help you to come across people you wouldn't otherwise in your normal course of business. Sure, that's kind of what dating apps do, right? It's a central hub for people looking for something that in other circumstances would not have any contact, like Craigslist or something. But after that, what happens? Like, I get into a relationship with someone via your app, and then in the course of my relationship, I go back to your app to help me maintain or cultivate the relationship further. I don't know. She hasn't told us exactly what her app does beyond simply getting people to find one another in the first place. So how does your app create long-term relationships as a goal in your I don't know, your target business? I don't get that part.
We are one of the top grossing on dating apps on Google Play.
Oh, you're a Google employee and you got a dating app on. Actually, is she a Google employee? Maybe I missed that part. I don't know if I got that. Maybe I misunderstood. Thank you, Lancelot 652. This book to me, I don't know if I'm not just like grammar Nazi or if it's her accent, but it's woman, not woman. I don't know. I understand her fine. Whatever. I mean, she's presumably, from her story, she's from Korea, so English is probably her second language, but she's been here many, many years. She sounds fine to me. I don't know.
And so, very happy to contribute some way to the Google community as well. Yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
Okay, yeah, but what does your app do? Okay, nothing you've said so far sounds any different from every other dating website app thing that I've ever seen, except there are apps that focus specifically on just hookups, right? Like Grindr or Tinder or something. They're not really into deep, stuff. And then you got, Match.com or eHarmony, those kind of things that go into really deep detail on who you are and everything and try to find 17,000 different matching items so you can find the perfect match. What does your app do that's different than the deep dive dating app like an eHarmony or the surface level cursory, I just want to get a hookup app of a Tinder? What does your app do that's so much different to solve these problems and open up love to everyone? And Kieverdam says, plenty of fish. Yes, plenty of fish. Plenty of fish was, man, I read a story once about the guy who created Plenty of Fish, and he was just raking in millions of dollars a year for a website that I guess worked for a lot of people. Every time I went to it back in the day, it looked so low rent. I mean, it looked really like angelfire.com level of quality, and yet, man, they were going gangbusters with advertisements and everything else for the longest time. And there was a story on the guy. He had like 6 employees and an office suite or something he'd go to like maybe twice a week, and he'd check in on stuff, but it basically ran itself and he just raked in ad money. It was nuts. Anyway.
Sounds incredible. Yeah, dating is painful. I painfully empathize there. Yes, Coffee Meets Bagel is amazing. I've used it.
Why is it amazing? Why? Tell me why. I've never heard of it. So tell me why. What does it do that is different than any other dating app? What is so unique about it?
Shout out to my manager and her husband. They used it and found each other there. Yeah, right. I'll give you their email address later for the success story. But
I love that.
you mentioned a lot of things there around sort of breaking through that model minority stereotype.
Whoa! What? She didn't mention anything. What? Model minority stereotype? Guys, did she ever say those words? In any, okay, maybe I missed it. In any of that, did she say those words at all? Did she use that phrase? Model minority stereotype. What?
So can you talk a little bit more about being a founder of color, female founder?
Oh, no.
Your family, as you mentioned, has gone through the experience of immigrating in the United States, and there are a lot of benefits and challenges that come with that. How would you say that experience sort of shaped your mindset as you started that business?
Okay, so already she's mentioned the greatness of her app, but not described to us. I mean, unless she's just assuming everybody already knows what her app is because she was on Shark Tank, which I think I've seen one episode of that in my entire life. I don't care. But anyway, all right, so I have no idea what your app does that's different than any other app. And then our moderator inserts into the conversation a phrase I don't think she ever actually uttered. And now we're going to go in the territory of tell us what it's like to be an entrepreneur of color / a woman. And also, what is your experiences having been an immigration family been to inform that? We are all over the place on this one. And this isn't even a TEDx talk.
Yeah. Now looking back, just so many interesting insights that came out of my experience as an immigrant. And I think it's very easy when you're going through it, it's very easy to just focus on the challenges. And it's only when you kind of look back and having overcome a lot of those challenges, you realize, wow, that really just helped me grow so much. And
wow, looking back over one's life and comparing where you are now versus where you were then and the things that have occurred to change your perspective and help you grow as a person. I never would have thought of such a thing.
And expand my perspective, and you just become really grateful for the experiences that life kind of threw at you. So
yeah, it's interesting how you can look back at things that happen and see good, bad, or otherwise how they might have helped shape the person you are. And I guess it all depends on whether or not you like the person you are now, that you can see in hindsight how those things might have had an effect. Wow, this is some deep insight, guys. Deep insight.
So I think a couple things that I want to highlight when it came to starting a business as an immigrant. I think when I first started, I was actually very self-conscious about the fact that I was a, Asian founder.
You were self-conscious. Okay. The operative word being self.
And because, my ambition was to be really able to change the way Americans date across the country and beyond, right? Beyond the world. And
how Americans, well, aren't you an American now? So anyway, all right. So you had grand ambitions to change how everybody dates. Okay. How does your app change the way people date? I'm still waiting for the big hook of your product that is separating it from everything else.
I think I was a little bit afraid of being the Asian face and, the mainstream America not being able to relate to it.
Right, because mainstream America is inherently anti-Asian. Okay.
And it kind of just goes back to similar experiences that I also had in school, in college. I don't know, Juno, if you had a similar experience, but I was never one of those kids who was don't really care if I'm Asian, I'm just gonna, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I think I was then too, pretty self-conscious about the fact that I look kind of different than the majority of the people here.
Wow, being self-conscious in school and not feeling like you fit in with other people. I have no idea what that's like at all. I'm not even Asian. How could I possibly have felt that way? Because I was wearing glasses and I was small and I was shy and, yeah, that never happens to anybody else.
How do I actually fit in?
I don't know. Hell, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Well, I'm going to be really careful not to hang out just with Asian because I don't want to be, I already feel like an outsider and I don't want to be like labeled even more.
So you discriminated your friends on the basis of ethnicity? That sounds progressive.
And so that was always kind of there. And I think it kind of constrained the way I acted, right? Like I didn't have a freedom to just be whoever or what I wanted to be because it was kind of like nagging in back of my mind. And
No. You had the freedom to be and act the way you wanted to act. You were putting these constraints on yourself. You were self-conscious. You chose not to associate with other Asian kids. The common factor in all of these things is you.
And so going back to Coffee Meets Bagel, I think there were moments when I even thought about like, maybe I should have a different spokesperson who is white and not Asian.
Oh, okay. You thought this. You were thinking this. You.
And who can actually like just in terms of visually could relate to the rest of America more.
And
so it was definitely challenges. And I think only when I actually started realizing that this is a unique asset, that like I started realizing that, I should really be, it's a heritage that I really should be proud of, that I begin to be able to embrace all the advantages and all the strength that comes with being part of the Asian community, right? Like, so.
Okay, so you're imparting a particular quality onto people on the basis of their ethnicity. And you came to this realization after you'd started your own business, but before you'd chosen a spokesperson. And so you got all the way into adulthood being direly self-conscious about your own appearance and heritage, but now you see the strength inherent to your heritage, even though you were projecting onto the American populace a white, racial-centric marketing strategy. This is very revealing. Very revealing.
So for example, a lot of first customer base of Coffee Meets Bagel were Asians. They used it and had a great experience with it, and they're the one who really catapulted us to, because they talked about it with their friends, right? And
were their friends other Asians, or were they like you separating themselves from Asians in order not to look too Asian? I don't know why I suddenly feel inspired to ask that question since you brought it up.
And of course, we have all kinds of friends, not just Asian friends, right? So
because we don't want to have too many Asian friends because that would make us too Asian or so. What are you going on about?
That was like the really like a very important element of how our initial growth came from. My first investor actually was Korean American. A lot of my mentors were, and I think what's great about being part of a small community is that we help each other a lot, right?
Well, wait a second. So first you're telling us that when you were younger, you were separating yourself from not just associating with Asian people because you didn't want to, I don't know, look too Asian or focus on that. But now you're hyping the strength of the Asian community, and your app is about diversity, but all of your initial investors and or mentors were all Asian. I'm getting a lot of mixed messages here. What exactly are we aiming for in this story? What's the lesson here?
And there's a network that you can really tap into, and there's nothing to be ashamed of for like being able to do that. That's a strength that comes with being part of a community. And
I don't know, the concept of community, like when I was growing up, I grew up in a little neighborhood, right? Everybody, we all had like the occasional like block party kind of thing, or the neighborhood fair and that kind of stuff. And all the neighbors would know each other. We had a cul-de-sac, it was we were just off the main street kind of thing. So it was a community, each house, every family, all the kids would play in the same places. I consider that a community. A community of an associated geographical territory, a shared space, a sort of, shared care for our mutual homes and things. Is being part of a racial or ethnic demographic inherently make you part of a community? Are you all on the same page at that point? Is simply having a shared appearance or general heritage of origin or something, does that make one part of a community inherently? I think that's a grand generalization, isn't it? You start unifying on the basis of simply appearance, identity politics, turning everything very tribal on very surface level similarities. That the use of the word community, depending on the context, and this context in particular, always makes me go a little.
I think you should really take advantage of that. And I think, actually, if I look back, how I actually came to kind of completely embrace that, I think it's really easy to think through, because we only can experience our own individual experience. Like all these challenges that comes with being an outsider is something that's unique to yourself.
How are you an outsider? You just talked about the grandeur of the Asian community. How are you an outsider? Why do you see yourself as an outsider? How do you classify anyone else who happens to have a similar appearance to you? Do you look at them as outsiders? Why? I don't get it.
But when you actually think about it, it's a very universal human experience.
Oh, you feeling like you don't belong, trying to find your place in the world, being made fun of by other kids because you look different or something or act different. Is it universal? Well, then why are you talking about it like you're some kind of special case? You're not.
Like, somebody who's white and like visually just not an underrepresented group.
Someone who's white and not visually an underrepresented group. Okay, well, I'm right here. Tell me what it's like.
Could feel like an outsider for many, many different reasons.
You're right. I could. And I was. I was made into an outsider. I was made fun of and picked on and, dare I say, marginalized. Because, at least in the early years of my life, I was relatively small and I was shy. And I wore glasses. And I was very stoic. I had a very reserved sensibility. And this did not jive with the other kids who saw an easy victim to take advantage of and to unify their own sense of superiority. Wasn't every kid, but it was a lot of kids. So yes, I know what that's like. Tell me more about my life experience.
I don't know, like if you come from an athletic family, but you're not athletic, well, you're going to feel like an outsider, right?
Well, I suppose that wasn't quite my situation, but okay, tell me more about me.
And so it's a very human experience, and that just doesn't come with whatever identity that you have. And I think once you realize that, you kind of are able to completely embrace it, which is...
Wait. What does any of that have to do with being white? You talked about universal human experience, and then you immediately start divvying things up by race. Why? Is it universal, or isn't it? Or are you saying that somehow being white is a different flavor to that experience? Is my experience of having been picked on and marginalized and ostracized because I was quiet and nerdy and everything else as a kid, is the trueness of that experience somehow less of a problem for me because I was white as compared to your personal struggles? I don't know how else to read what you just said, because you went from universal to very racially specific, as though that's supposed to make some kind of difference to the quality of my experience in life. So why?
Which is what happened to me.
I don't even ask you the questions. You already teed up perfectly in the segue to my next question. That was really great. I think it's great to see that it aligns with the theme, breaking through together.
Breaking through together, but still dividing people by race.
Helped you grow. It was the growth engine for your company, the founders itself as well. I want to kind of relate that to sort of your field of expertise and the Asian experience within dating. So one of the first things that you said was you want to build an app that's for everyone, right? And build an inclusive and equal experience.
Yeah, an app that's for everyone, but in her first opening salvo, she talked about orientation and race. So,
the Asian community, as you're aware, it faces a lot of challenges.
Thank you, Joe Fapps. Growing up white with a single mom was definitely privileged. Totally didn't happen to me. Yeah. I love how people just find a way to rate the direness of their own experience as compared to anybody else and divvy it up specifically on the basis of superficial attributes. Like somehow my being picked on and minimized as a kid wasn't nearly as bad as if I were a different color, And conversely, anything that I might have achieved as a kid or anything that I might have succeeded at wasn't really a success if I'd been a different color. I mean, how much more vilified can you get, right? If you're being told that because of what you look like and not for anything that you are, anything that you've done, your successes and your failures or tragedies are somehow diminished and not as important or not as meaningful. Thank you, Johnny Stoffel. Now we must pay $2 to pick on Scribe, #entrepreneur. People don't need to pay $2 to pick on me. You guys pick on me all the time. Monkey picks on me all the time. Everybody's picking on me. Why is everybody picking on me? Okay, anyway, so yes, back to your dating app that's supposed to be all-inclusive, but by the way, orientation and race.
And a lot of them take a really interesting shape when it comes to dating, just like East Asian bias, fetishization versus discrimination, et cetera, right?
Right, yeah, well, nodding and smiling.
And then other minority groups as well face similar challenges. And an OkCupid study from 2014, you may have seen, it says that we don't really date outside of our ethnic communities. And then there's the conversation of preference versus racial bias.
And look, the big smile on her face. Preference versus racial bias. Oh boy, I'm ready for this. I love talking about racial bias.
So all that intro being said, as a leader in this space, an important space like dating, how do you take these issues into account personally and for the company and kind of build towards that future of an inclusive dating app for all?
Yes. Okay. Are we going to get into the nuts and bolts now of exactly how this app is supposed to make love available to everyone and anyone that you don't want to give your love to because you have a preference equals racism, sexism, homophobia, whatever? Because I've heard those arguments as well. If you don't want to date, name your demographic, then you're a name your ism or phobic or something. Thank you, Lancelot 652. And thus from all the torment, young Scribe becomes the Lord of Punishment. Yes, I shall have my revenge. Or something. No. Yes, and with this revenge shall take the shape of having a voice not unlike an older brother of Kermit the Frog. I'll show all of you someday
Yeah. I think that's such a great question and very, very important topic that doesn't just address dating, because I think the principle of diversity and inclusion just applies anywhere, like workplace, dating, wherever we are.
Wait, the principle of diversity and inclusion? The principle of diversity and inclusion is to categorize people on the basis of race and or gender and or orientation, ignore any personal merits, and look at everyone as part of a demographic window dressing situation. Quota system. Do we appear to be open and inclusive, etc.? We can't have too many of any one kind of person visibly, otherwise we'll be accused of being discriminatory. So in order to fight back against any accusations that we are discriminatory, we must discriminate towards having as many different kinds of people as we can. But by kinds of people, I mean people that someone could walk into our workplace, look around, and visually see different kinds of people. It doesn't matter who they are, so long as what they are fits a aesthetic that saves us from being accused of being discriminatory. That's the principle of diversity and inclusion, as a phrase, as a philosophy, as I've come to understand it over the years. So, if you want to work the principle of diversity and inclusion into dating, then you are doing the most superficial hunt in dating you can imagine. You're not looking for the content of someone's character. You're looking for the color of their skin, literally, figuratively, and otherwise. That is the principle of diversity and inclusion. So the kind of surface level relationships that are being implied as being provided by Coffee Meets Bagel here don't sound like healthy relationships on principle. But then I haven't been told exactly what this app does, so I can only take what I'm given.
Communities. And so I was thinking about this a little bit yesterday on points that I wanted to share, and kind of found, and of course, my point of view is based on my own life experiences, so it's not the answer. And I really hope that this is actually going to be thought-provoking.
Okay, all right. I know you're buying time or something. Really, could you get to the point, please? This is all just fluff.
More than anything else, so that we can continue this conversation. I think as a dating app creator and a leader.
Don't pat yourself on the back too hard. You might break your arm.
And somebody who really aspires to change the world. Like, if we want to bring more diversity and inclusion to anything, including dating, you really have to kind of start with the question of why is that important? Why is diversity and inclusion important?
I am asking that question more and more often these days. Why is diversity and inclusion important? At least as defined as I've seen it defined over the years. Why not value a person on their merits? And I understand merit is a tyranny all the same.
Because without realizing that, all of us realizing that as individuals, it can't happen. Like wait.
No, we're not talking about individuals. No. Hold on. Diversity and inclusion has nothing to do with individuality. I don't know if you missed that memo. Diversity and inclusion has nothing to do with individuality. Maybe that's where the disconnect is.
We can make it into a rule. I can include all kinds of options on Coffee Meets Bagel for people to be able to choose. But if people don't make the choices because they don't realize what lack of diversity is costing them in their life and in our organization, in our community, then we're just not going to make the choice, right?
Okay, so how do you, I'll just use myself as an example because here I am. All right, how do you, through your app, tell me what I'm missing by not incorporating diversity and inclusion into my life? How do you make this case to me? right? What's your sales pitch? I mean, here we have an entrepreneur, a CEO of a company, creator of an app. All right, I'm waiting for the sales pitch for this app. You know, elevator pitch or 30-second deal, whatever. Why does this app become something I need? What is this app going to do to enrich my life versus any other dating app? And most specifically in the realm of diversity and inclusion in dating. That's what I came here for.
And so I think it's first and foremost really, really important to understand what is lack of diversity and lack of inclusion in my life and in my dating life.
Yes. Okay. Please define your terms.
Costing me.
No. I can't know what the lack of something is costing me until I know what the something is to begin with. So, as pertains to dating, what is a lack of diversity? Okay, what does that mean? And then maybe I can have an idea of what the cost is. But okay.
And so, for example, in dating,
yes.
I think maybe in the workplace force, like there's a lot of conversation around it, and maybe it's a little bit more obvious. Full access to talent pool for sure is when there's a fierce competition for talent. It's very, very difficult to find somebody who has the exact skill set that you're looking for, is passionate about the industry, very, very good culture fit.
Yes, okay, but wait, are you going to equate hiring someone for a job with dating? I mean, I guess it depends on what you're looking for in a partner. But someone filling a functional task in a company, a cog in the machine, I don't know if that's necessarily the most healthy analogy to start off with towards looking for a romantic partner of one kind or another.
Well, if somebody feels marginalized, and because you don't have a diverse work environment and they don't want to be part of it, well, it's just gonna hurt your ability to have a top talent and high performing team. So that's pretty.
Wait, if someone is in my company and they don't want to participate, they get fired. I mean, if someone's in my company and they look around and say, golly gee, there's not enough people that have skin color X, so I'm not going to do this. I'd be like, okay, racist, here's your walking papers. What? Michael Hatfield says, greetings, Scribelight. Greeting, Michael Hatfield. Do you have any problems with the McCoys by any chance? I hear there's a deep-rooted conflict there. I don't know.
Pretty obvious why diversity and inclusion is really important. And
okay, I gotta back up. I gotta back up a couple seconds because I'm trying to understand how this is an answer to the question asked or what she is saying. Because so far, I don't know where we're at or what she's getting at. She went from what is the cost of not having diversity and inclusion in your dating situation, and then she jumps over into workplace hiring dynamics and diversity and inclusion in a company.
A diverse work environment, and they don't want to be part of it. Well, it's just going to hurt your ability to have a top talent and high performing team. So that's pretty obvious why diversity and inclusion is really important, and what it can potentially be costing your organization.
I am not an organization. I am an individual, unless I'm somehow ridiculously polyamorous, which, I mean, some people it works for them. Most people I know it doesn't. But either way, I'm not looking to tap a talent pool. I'm looking to tap a curvy redhead, maybe. Oh, was that too risque? I mean, it's Sunday. Sunday always feels like a family day. I apologize, sort of. Thank you, Gear PG. Late to the show. Have to watch in full later. This seems like a corporate WTF show. Oh, sorry, complete WTF show. I mean, the title told me something, and maybe we'll get there. I'm not going to give it too much longer to try to give me something, but it's Sunday and I got nothing else to do, so we'll see where it takes us. And thank you, Chaos X, for the diamond. Ooh, am I a diamond in the rough? And Michael Hatfield says, Scribe Light feud officially ended in 1993, LMAO. Are you sure? Was there like an official truce or something? No, honestly, I don't know. Was there like a coming together of like the descendants of the original feud, and they like shook hands and signed an agreement? We're done. If that's true, that's awesome. Either way,
I think in dating, same thing applies. Like you as a dater,
yes.
Assuming that your goal is to find an amazing, healthy, thriving relationship.
Well, I guess ideally, yes, except that the dating phase is the toes in the water phase. The long-term goal certainly is a great relationship, but just getting your foot in the door, sort of an entry-level position in romance, is the dating phase. The stuff that comes after is between me and the other person. Because if I have to start referring to an app in the course of a developing relationship after the dating phase, I think there might be some problems there. But okay, so what is the goal of your app? I mean, to get the ball rolling. That's what dating is. Maybe you're shooting a bit further down the line than makes sense for a dating app, or am I? Since I have no idea what your dating app does, I can only speculate.
And in the science of dating and relationship, which is, most of us want, and in the science of dating and relationship, what we know, and this has been researched like throughout, like there's so many books and readings that you could do.
There are lots of books and readings on dating and relationships. You don't say.
And so I'm not going to get into it, but it is like a scientific fact. What really matters when it comes to healthy long-term relationship is emotional security. Like
emotional security. Okay, very broad statement, but okay, sure. If I don't feel emotionally secure with someone, if I don't trust them, or I don't have a continued sense of attraction to them, or don't feel the attraction from them, sure. Okay. How does your app create emotional security then?
Emotional security that you have for each other, and emotional security that you're able to create for each other. Well, why? Well, because love at the end of the day is there for us to be able to have that deep sense of belonging and connectedness. That's what love is. And
I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. How does your app do that? I get all of these universal truths about human relationships, love, and so on. What does any of that have to do with your rinky-dink app? Seriously. Michael Hatfield, yes, descendants of both signed a document in West Virginia in 1993. Well, what do you know? I did not know that. Thank you, Michael Hatfield. I'm glad to know that peace rings supreme in your family. All right.
And we all kind of need that. That is a fundamental human need.
Yes.
And our partnership with our romantic partners is able to provide that. Not just that, like, of course, all relationships can do that.
What does this have to do with your app? What does any of this have to do with your app? This is the most boilerplate, common sense, universal truth of human relationship and romance. Great. I get it. We all get it. Ideally or otherwise, we get it. What does it have to do with your app? How does your app cultivate these things? What does any of this have to do inherently with skin color or ethnicity or whatever? What?
And romantic relationship is part of it. So it's here to provide you with emotional security. And so it's very important that you actually are able to find somebody who is emotionally accessible, responsive, and engaged with you, and you are able to do that vice versa.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I understand. I understand what the end goal of romance and love and everything else is. Okay. So Finding that person is your job, right? Okay, so how does your app help me to find that person in some way that is unique from every other dating app, but specifically trying to make sure that my search has the benefits of diversity and inclusion? Because without the benefits of diversity and inclusion, I'm missing out. Missing out on what? I don't know. You haven't told us. So tell us about your product, would you please?
And once you feel safe, of course, then you can go out and do, explore various different aspects of yourself and the other person. Like the playfulness comes up, adventurousness comes up. Like you feel really completely safe to be naughty. Like that's the foundation of like you being able to act freely, which is very important in a romantic relationship. Well,
yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I got it. I can fantasize about the perfect relationship and all of the good things that come from that, and the ins and the outs, literally, figuratively. I get that. You're right. You just spent the last 5 minutes telling us everything we already know about the wishful thinking aspects of relationships, or the hopes and the dreams and so on. Yeah, I got it. I'm not here for that. I'm here for you to tell me how I build, quote unquote, diversity and inclusion into my dating, which is the ground level phase of relationship searching, not the long-term maintenance of a singular dedicated relationship, but just the testing the waters with people phase. And then specifically, how does your app do that? Could you help me, please?
So then, factually and scientifically speaking, your probability of being able to create that healthy relationship with someone really has nothing to do with a lot of factors like height, college they went to 10 years ago, your current income, their current income,
their race, their ethnicity, things that are surface level that are not determinative of someone's character, those kind of things, you mean?
Body type, all these factors that we often use to filter out a potential partner really has nothing to do with whether or not this person is going to be emotionally, somebody who's going to be compatible with you long term. And
except that there are factors that do matter there. 1 second. Thank you, Jeanette E. Hellis. Is this enough for you to try out the app, Mr. Scribe? I haven't been sold on it yet, but here's the thing. CEO of Coffee Meets Bagel. Weight might be a deal breaker. Income might be a deal breaker. Education might be a deal breaker. I mean, let's think about this for a second. Let's say, just for argument's sake, I come from a family where heart disease has claimed several members of my family due to obesity. And maybe those experiences growing up and watching family members suffer and or die as a result of that has made me very health conscious, both for myself, my potential partner, and certainly any future children we might have together. So perhaps finding someone who is physically fit and cares about those things and reflects those values that I hold dear in their physical appearance and habits is important to me in a partner. Maybe I find healthy people attractive, or people who are focused on health attractive. Maybe that turns me on as a counterpoint to the experiences I had growing up as a child. Now, am I wrong then for being attracted to physically fit people? Is that a moral failing on my part? Or is that a reasonable concern based on my lived experience? You tell me. I mean, you just listed these things off, and apparently there's no scenario under which those things might matter. None of those things should matter. Shouldn't they? If I want to find a partner who's going to be able to be supportive of themselves in the absence of my presence, wouldn't their educational background be important? Wouldn't their ability to earn an income be important? I mean, for me personally, this me speaking as scribe here, I have a personal philosophy that I would not be ready for a relationship with someone else until I had myself taken care of. And what I mean by that is, can I exist independently on a financial basis and on a, relatively speaking, emotional basis? I want to be in a relationship where I want to be with someone, not that I need to be with someone. And I'm talking about before I even meet the person. I want to be in a situation where a relationship is a nice addition to my life, not a necessity to my existence. Okay. Now, I know you could say, well, I mean, everybody wants love and companionship and belonging and that kind of thing. And that is a necessary factor of, survival, Maslow's triangle. That I get that part. But what I'm talking about in the general sense is, am I going to be someone who's going to have to mooch off of my partner? I don't want to be that person. Am I someone who is so emotionally fragile that I need to have constant validation all the time in order to survive? I don't want to be that person, even though I am that person. Anyway, yeah, so that's how I look at it. Now, if I put someone that I'm looking at as a potential partner through a filter of, are they independent? Can they stand on their own 2 feet in the absence of a partner? Is that wrong of me to look for that in someone? I mean, some people go after someone who is clingy or codependent or something. Maybe that's their thing. I don't know if it's healthy or not, but whatever. Personally, I mean, eventually I want to find someone. I want to be in that situation where I'm with someone and other people on the outside look at the two of us and they can't imagine us not being together, kind of thing, right? Where one begins and the other ends just sort of blurs. That kind of thing, that's sort of, I guess it's sort of fairy tale, Hollywood ideal kind of deal. Morticia and Gomez. And I know this is an example used by many, many, many people. I want what they have. Well, I do. That kind of relationship, that kind of dynamic, that kind of just like absolute interlocking livelihood, sensibility, that kind of thing. That's what I hope to have someday. That's what I've hoped to have in the past. And maybe for a brief glimpse here and there, it felt like I did, but it's a rare thing. Thank you again, Gear PG. This in support of Jeanette E. Hellis's suggestion. I need to know what this app does first. I haven't been told what it does or how it's different from a bunch of other apps. And honestly, the few online dating experiences that I've had have been hilariously catastrophic. Not in a terrible, something really terrible happened, just like most uncomfortable, failed sort of attempts ever, at least in my experience.
Was the probability of being able to create healthy and thriving relationship. So using the same analogy as a talent pool, if you as a dater actually choose to exclude certain, very wide segment of population out there based on certain facts that really don't matter in, ultimately being able to get that healthy relationship. Well,
okay, who gets to decide what factors are or are not necessary or important or part of a healthy relationship? I mean, how does your app work? Does your app actually have filtering mechanisms or not? Do you just have like a gray picture with a question mark on it and maybe a first name under each profile and that's it? It's like every date is a big surprise package. What are you saying here? Filtering people out or potential dating possibilities by age, income, education. Are those options not on your app? Are you going against the grain by not giving people the ability to make selections on what they prefer? I'm not quite sure what you're arguing here.
Well, you basically have a lot less to work with. And so now your ability to filter for things that really do matter.
Do matter to who? I mean, admittedly, it's your app. You can make the app filter by whatever you want. But I'm just curious to know, What is the thinking that goes into what constitutes a matters aspect in dating? What matters in dating as far as your app is concerned? What do you allow to be filtered?
Is a lot less. It's significantly undermined because you're starting with such a smaller pool. Like if you have 1,000 people, of course you can curate more. But if you're starting with 10 people, like there isn't really something that you can curate on.
Why would I want to waste the time sifting through 1,000 people? 1,000 people. So is 1,000 is a result of 1,000 possibilities an ideal endpoint for you and your app? Are the filters on your app, are the holes in your screen so wide that 20 people get in, whereas in any other app you might get 1 or 2? Is that an efficient way to seek potential dating partners? What are you arguing here?
Because the starting off point is so small to begin with. And so I think this is something that's really important for all of us to understand.
Okay.
It's not love is it's a very personal choice, and nobody can force you, right? Like we can't have a rule like you need to actually be open to dating everyone. Like we can't do that.
But you just said that there are things that don't matter in selecting a dating partner. You've taken the position of deciding what does and does not matter for someone seeking a dating partner. You have rules. You just said that. What are you talking about?
And so it really has to come from you. And I think it's very important for all of us to realize when we actually try to exclude too much, what that could potentially be costing.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm setting aside all of my apprehension. What is it costing? How does your app work? What filter mechanisms does your app have? Or what filter mechanisms specifically are you not including because you think they're bad? What is the attributes in a dating situation that actually matter according to you? And how am I missing out if I'm not using your app? I am still waiting for a sales pitch here. Nothing's coming my way.
Us.
That didn't answer anything. What? Oh, God.
This is remarkably similar to what Google has produced when it comes to workplace high performing teams.
A workplace high-performing team is on the same level as seeking out a emotionally supportive, romantic, long-term partner. Is that how Google sees its employees? As individual love affairs? Or is that how Google wants its employees to see their relationship with Google? Is that part of the whole bring your whole self to work philosophy by any chance? I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because I don't know where this is going.
It's a two-pronged system, right? You set up you create the awareness with data that says, psychological safety is the number one most important thing for a high-performing team. It's
psychological safety, like James Damore. Did he have psychological safety before Google fired him for speaking his mind? Or anybody else at Google that's ever spoken up against the regime there? Is there psychological safety at Google? Is there? I don't know.
All that stuff aside, but then also creating a platform to kind of empower these underrepresented groups, right? So I guess part 2 is what I'm curious about.
Yeah, because the quote unquote underrepresented groups lack power. We need to give them power. We need to bestow upon them power because obviously they lack power because of what they are, right?
What has Coffee Meets Bagel done, or you've done, or people in the dating industry have done to kind of, after you get the information out there that psychological safety is most important, how do you get people to be more open to kind of meeting people from different backgrounds or create a forum for that?
Okay, our moderator is really missing the mark here. He needs to... You don't ask her about the industry. You don't ask her about other people or society. You ask her about her app. What is she doing? Now, she might go off the ranch into other territory on her own, and she has already. But as the moderator, if we're going to be talking about our speaker and her expertise and her entrepreneurship and her product, you need to narrow the focus of the question to that. Otherwise, it could go everywhere and anywhere. I don't want to hear about how society thinks about romance. I want to hear about what our speaker thinks about it and how that translates into her app and what her app does. Because so far, haven't heard it.
Right. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, my personal belief is that like a true inclusion, like our ability to not be biased towards certain groups or biased against certain groups.
You will never not be biased against or towards certain groups. You've already admitted this to us so much in your own story. You shunned other people in school because they were Asian, because you did not want to be associated only with Asians and thus somehow, I don't know, underscore your Asianness. But then you tell us about how the strength of the Asian community in helping you get your business off the ground, mentorship, and so on. You possess and practice biases every moment of your day. We all do, but you have voiced them in the same areas that you now would say are moral defaults, or sorry, moral faults in anybody who's dating and putting a filter on what results they get. Please don't tell me you're going to stand on some pedestal of somehow you've gone beyond bias or something, because you haven't.
Really can only happen through repeated exposure. And so diversity really is the prerequisite to inclusion. Well, why? Because as human beings, we're like masterful at, it's all about our own survival, right? Like, millions of years, we became hardwired and biologically focused on being able to detect any kind of potential threat that could, compromise our survival.
Yeah, sort of like you became self-conscious about your appearance. And in order to succeed, you wondered if you shouldn't put a white person up as the spokesperson instead of yourself. That kind of survival, entrepreneurial survival, you practicing that yourself.
And so anything that feels unfamiliar, anything that feels like whatever is a potential threat. And anything that doesn't feel like me, my group, could be a potential threat. So like, we just cannot even help it. Like our amygdala just lights up and it's just like a, 0.0001 second reaction.
So then why are you classifying things that someone might filter through dating results with as what matters or what doesn't? If everybody does it and you do it yourself, is your app supposed to be changing base instincts of human survival? Is that it? I'm really grasping here at this point because I don't know what she's talking about, what this has to do with anything.
And so for us to actually not have that, which is again totally out of our control, it's only through repeated exposure that we realized, oh, actually they look different, but they're basically me. We're the same. They're not a threat. And I think only repeated exposure can bring that, which is why sometimes, like, even if it's artificially created, like that, creating that in safety where diversity is there is important. So,
Wait. Okay, first off, if you're noticing any roboting on there, that's part of the original video. Now, I can't tell, obviously, if I'm roboting at any particular point, but there is roboting going on with the recording. It's been happening here and there over the time. So on the off chance that was bugging you, I don't have any control over that. That's part of the original recording. But again, what are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with your app? How does your app solve this problem? Repeated exposure. Exposure to what? Exposure to who? Exposure to how? I could keep going. What are you talking about?
We talk about a workplace like, okay, making sure that when we interview minimum numbers of like people in X group, because they're very difficult to get. And if you don't actually make that effort, you're not going to be exposed to that kind of candidates to begin with.
Okay, so your app is specifically putting people in front of other people on the basis of race, then? Is that it? Like, how does your app work? If I sign on as a new user and it says, and I'm guessing, I don't know, because based on what you're saying, it says, what type of people do you preferably like to date? White people? Pick the race that you prefer. Okay, then, we will put in front of you dating possibilities that don't conform to your desires or your preferences. Is that how that works? And that by exposing me to lifeless profiles on your dating app, I'll then be conditioned into going out on a date with someone that you've decided I should because they're not the race that I'm commonly dating or something? What are you talking about? I don't mean to keep saying that. Well, I mean to keep saying in the sense I'm consciously making the choice to say that, but I mean, I just want to get to the point. Tell me something substantive, Irate Bear, about her product or something.
And so of course, whatever bias that you may have for that group doesn't change because you're just not exposed to that group of people.
So if I've never, ever been exposed to demographic X, then I inherently have a belief about demographic X. Is that it? If I've never met someone from, I don't know, name a country, I inherently have a belief in the negative about people from that country? Is that what I'm supposed to understand? Thank you, ex-Bubba Hotep. Good afternoon. Also, demographic, not group. They have wavered so far back and forth between what they mean when they're talking about a talent pool or a set of possible employment candidates. That would be a group. And then they immediately jump over into demographics, calling them groups. And I've just kind of given up on trying to correct every instance because it's all over the place and so common now. So whenever you hear them say the word group, try to take it into context. Are they actually talking about a group or are they talking about a demographic? And if they should be talking about a demographic, then they don't know what they're talking about.
And so I think the same goes for dating. I think you have to be careful because it is a very personal thing.
Is it really?
And I don't want to make anyone feel wrong.
But you don't want to make anyone feel wrong. And yet you are categorizing things as what matters and what does not matter in the course of looking for someone to date. You've decided to become the arbitrator of what should and should not matter for someone who's looking for a dating relationship. And yet you're not wanting to tell anyone that they're wrong. You've created a dating app that is pushing diversity and inclusion with the notion that not having a diverse dating pool is leading to some kind of detriment in someone's dating experience, but you're not here to tell anybody that they're wrong. Okay, well then what are you here to tell people then?
For having certain kind of, partner preferences. And I think it's important to realize the information that I share, that it could be potentially costing you something big.
How? How is it costing me? What is it costing me? How have you measured this? What do you mean it is costing me? Describe to me the detriment I am facing by having preferences in who or what kind of person I am looking for in a dating relationship. What am I losing out on? What is it costing me? You need to describe this. You can't just say it does at the same time saying, I'm not here to tell anybody they're wrong, but it may be costing you. Then you are telling me I'm doing something wrong, aren't you? Come on, seriously?
At the same time, and also kind of like the approach that Coffee Meets Bagel has taken is again, without forcing, but trying to incorporate more exposure to the type of people they might not have thought about as their, the quality that they should have as a potential partner.
So again, you have decided what is and is not a correct way of thinking when it comes to dating via apps. But you don't want to tell anybody that they're wrong, but they're obviously missing out if they don't go along with your way of thinking. And your way of thinking is what? I think I'm done, guys. I've given this a talk half of its running time, literally just about here, and at no point have I been educated on what the app is, what it does differently than any other app, or how the philosophy behind the app makes any sense whatsoever. And this is coming from the founder, CEO, and spokesperson for the app. And her logic on this is so inherently contradictory and incomprehensible. I don't know. Is she couching her language so she doesn't sound completely racist, unlike everything she's already said previously, or sexist, or what? I'm not going to tell you what's wrong in your dating, but I'm going to tell you what matters in dating. I'm going to classify these things as irrelevant to a long-term healthy dating experience. And I'm going to tell you what is relevant, but I'm not going to tell you that you're incorrect for thinking that way, even though you're missing out if you do, because what you're doing is inherently detrimental to your overall dating experience. So says me. Okay. Yeah, I'm done. I'll take a couple of minutes, guys, if you have anything you'd like to add or say, but I've given this probably far more than it deserved. Let's see. Let's see here. Zeo Gold says, Scribe needs more pepper jack. Well, after this one, I probably do. Thank you, your boy. Thank you for saying something, your boy Pat. That's reflexive on me. Your boy Pat. It sounds like her app is more exclusive than inclusive. I don't know. By the way she's describing it, it almost sounds like she'd say filtering options on possible dating prospects are inherently an evil. That 1,000 results for me to sift through is a better result than 10 curated results. Somehow deluging me with options and strangers and things all over the place is a more efficient or more moral way of dating than looking for what I'm actually attracted to or interested in. That's what she made it sound like. Ryan, thank you. The stream was rigged from the start. You were never going to get answers from her since you might not buy into her drivel. She has not sold me on her product. Let me just say that. Jeanette E. Hella says, try the app. Well, I'm going to have to at least look into the actual material on what this app is and what it does now, because I'm ridiculously curious. Actually, you know what? Heck, while we're here, let's actually go to let's go to their website real quick, and just for fun, I will share the screen on this, and we can learn together briefly. I will read their mission statement or whatever else they've got here. I'm not going to join. What we do, we create meaningful connections that spark hearts and inspire people to share themselves authentically. Oh, there's that word. And enthusiastically. How does it work? Smart algorithm. Every day at noon, receive quality matches curated just for you by our ever-evolving algorithm. Wait, curated for me by your algorithm? In-depth profiles share the true you and get to know your matches with profiles that dig deep. And on this example they have, I am in pursuit of my personal legend, someone who strives to be her best every day. I like learning, growing, and making an impact because that's when I feel most fulfilled. Real conversations. Skip the small talk and spark meaningful conversations. Spark meaningful conversation with personalized icebreakers. Can't I just talk to someone? Why do I have to personalize an icebreaker? Okay. Quote. These are all moving quotes. I don't have much time. Quote. It was like we had known each other forever. We dated for 9 months, got engaged, and 10 months later. The first time we met for coffee, although ironically neither of us drink coffee, and chatted for a few hours. Okay. I know I can scroll back. I don't care. Okay. Careers, home, blog. Okay. Coffee meets bagel and getaway, giving a 2-night stay to couples affected by coffee place virtually meet virtual dates. COVID-19, Valentine's, February. Boy, they don't update this blog very often, do they? You're not going to tell me like what you do that's unique, like something. Brand assets, looking for our look. No. Partnership inquiries. No. Press inquiries. No. What do you do? How does it work? CMB culture. We're on a mission to give everyone a chance at love. You in? It's a tall order, we know, but with our team of passionate people, we're pretty sure we've got this. Get to know us below. Oh, that's about joining. Yeah. Ownership, continuous learning, accountability, collaboration, courageous candor. Wow. Okay. I still don't know what this app does that's any different from any other app. Jeanette E. Hellis, Mike. Oh, sorry. That was to somebody else. Scrolling up because I know I missed some things. Faith Alexandria Oglesby. They think they are part of a solution to problems that don't exist. Since they don't have to actually do anything, it correlates with their mode of living. I don't even know what the app's ultimate goal is. She was talking about long-term relationships. Is that what this app does? It creates long-term relationships? Or is it a dating app? It doesn't sound like a relationship counseling app. Dating is the initial phase of most relationships in the modern day. The courtship, that kind of thing. Finding out, do you have a connection with this person, and so on. A dating app is sort of a shortcut where you don't have to do a lot of digging. Someone puts up what their personal details are, and you see if you have some things in common, and maybe that's a starting point for a date. And then maybe things continue from there. Who knows? What does the dating app have to do with anything beyond that? How does this dating app go beyond? I mean, is it an eHarmony? Does it go over several points of matching and try to find perfect things? But it was talking about an algorithm. Well, why aren't I setting the algorithm? What does your algorithm have to do with my preferences? Especially when you're telling me that my preferences are an inherent evil or something. I don't get it. Let's see. A couple more things, then I'm going to wrap this up, guys, because I've gone on way too long. Zeo Gold, I think Scribe has a better chance of becoming a Astartes than understanding this dating site. Why do I know that word? I know that word from somewhere. James Von Maxwell, dating sites are crap anyway. Anyone with any value doesn't need a stupid dating app to get a dang date. I don't look down on anybody who uses dating apps. Honestly, I don't. I've known plenty of people who have found long-term relationships through dating apps. It's a starting point. That's all it is. You know, it's a more convenient way without having to actually go out or socialize if you don't have the time, if you've got a busy schedule. I understand that. I've found people that I've dated briefly through dating apps, or just went out on one date and had it really. I'll tell this very brief story just to close out. I was on OkCupid several years ago, and OkCupid at that time, and I don't know if it does anymore, but it had a percentile match estimate on there based on your profile versus the other person's. And I got an email, as they send out almost every day on OkCupid if you're signed up. I got an email saying, "We found a match for you." And I'd seen many of these over time, and I just sort of clicked on it to eventually delete it, but it said 99% match. And I had never, ever seen a 99% match on any of these things before. And I was like, what? And so I looked at this person's profile, and she was kind of cute, and I looked up her details, and I was like, wow, yeah, there's a lot in common there. At least generally speaking. Wow, 99%. So I messaged this person back when you could actually send messages in OkCupid without having a paid account. And I said, hey, OkCupid tells me that we're a 99% match, which is like, a blue moon. So I guess I should say hello. And she said hello back. And we decided, yeah, let's meet up. And so we set a date. I went downtown, met her at a nice restaurant. We sat down to talk. Have you ever walked out of your house into the outdoors and the temperature doesn't change? Like there's absolutely no difference between being indoors and suddenly being outdoors. Those days where you just walk out and it's like it's an extension of your living space going outside. That weird kind of feeling about it where it's the temperature is exactly the same. That's what that date was like. It was like having lunch with myself. And I had nothing to say to me. There was some introductory conversation. We talked a little bit about this, that, and the other. And at a certain point, and I remember the most specific example I remember is on our profiles, we both had that we don't drive. And we brought that up. I think I brought it up at the table. And we're just sitting there talking, and I said, "Yeah, a long time ago, I just decided I'm not comfortable driving. I'm just really not." And I was about to continue by saying, "But if I ever decided to," right? Before I could get out the word "but," I just said, I learned a long time ago I'm not very comfortable with driving. And she says, right after I said it, she says, "I know that if I ever did, I'd probably get a motorcycle first." And that was the exact thing I was about to say. It was so eerie and yet so comfortable that by the end of the date, it was like, you ever have your own voice played back to you just slightly out of phase? It cancels it out. Your brain just can't quite work at that point. An echo that's coming right back at you. Yeah. It was like a null zone. She was a nice girl. She seemed very, prosperous, the whole 9 yards. I didn't find anything outwardly abhorrent about her or anything. But there was just this null space of sameness. And so it was at that point I realized the wisdom of the old phrase, opposites attract. There's got to be some overlap here and there, but man, if you actually found your match, literally found your match, I don't think you'd be happy. I don't think you'd find anything there. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this random excursion into a topic I didn't know where it would take us, but I'm still not quite sure where it took us. But here we are, and you're with me, and I'm with you, and I appreciate it. Now, if you'd like to hear more from me, or Satsu 2 Cents, or the Ranting Monkey, you can find all three of us tomorrow, Monday night, on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the Lords of the Night, where we will talk about the news of the day, news stories you submit, what we've been up to on the intertubes, and then your questions and comments. If you're looking more from me on a TEDx territory, you'll probably find me here tomorrow, Monday, around noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern, with a brand new TED Excellence. I have one in store that should be all sorts of amazing. You'll just have to wait and see. And beyond that, guys, it's Sunday. I hope we're all having a nice, relaxing Sunday, all things considered, in this crazy world we live in. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you all so much for your participation. And those of you who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Have a good have a good day, guys. But don't stumble that up. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.